Hey everybody, just wanted to give a trigger warning at the beginning of this episode. We talk about human trafficking and the consequences of human trafficking and the purposes of human trafficking in this episode. So, if this is a particular concern for you, or if you have little ears listening along, then just wanted to give you heads up and please go and get a hug from somebody, speak to somebody you love if this is triggering for you. We hope you enjoy. Hello and welcome to the Art of Decluttering. Today it is just Kirsty here with you because I have my beautiful friend Michelle from Eden Ministries here with us as well. And she is going to give us an update on the partnership that we have with Eden and everything that's going down with Eden. So welcome, Michelle.
Good morning, Kirsty. How are you going?
I'm good. Amy says hello. She's just got COVID, so,
Sending my love that way.
Yeah.
So tough. So much of it around at the moment. Hey, again?
Yeah.
Thanks so much for having me again.
We love hearing about your organisation. So give us an update. The floor is yours, my friend.
Thanks, Kirsty. Thanks again so much for not only having me here now with you guys, but just your ongoing support. It means so much and it makes such an incredible difference. Not only the support in the beautiful emails that you guys send of encouragement, but also obviously the donations that you pop into the Eden bank account every month without fail. It makes such a direct and huge difference. So we love you guys and really appreciate you and all your team and the people that are a part of the Art of Decluttering. It's been a huge couple of years, Kirsty, as you know, and we have caught up a few times. We've caught up with you guys since COVID. We've caught up with you since the coup, the 1st of February 2021 coup that took place in Myanmar, which is where we do most of our work. It's our, I guess, if you were talking in the corporate world, you would say our head office. So it doesn't look anything like a head office from that perspective, but that's where our hub is. That's where our global founder and CEO is based and where we run most of our rescue work. Myanmar is a nation that my heart just breaks for so much right now, as if it wasn't already a nation on its knees through decades of conflict, hurt, corruption, poverty, then to face COVID, then to face not only COVID, but the Delta wave of COVID, which just brought such grief and sadness to the nation, to then face the coup, which I know I caught up with you guys about, but still has such devastating impact on the level of desperation and the level of vulnerability and the things that come with those is just so devastating for this nation. And obviously, given that we work in the human trafficking space, situations like poverty and vulnerability only severely exacerbate this issue as people fall further into poverty, desperation, and vulnerability. Devastatingly, we see an increase in crimes such as human trafficking and exploitation. And so that's sadly exactly what our team on the ground there are facing right now. And I'm not sure if I shared this piece of data with you when we caught up last time, but, last year as COVID and the coup really, the impact started to flow and the economic devastation that those two things are bringing to a nation that was already certainly not in a good space in that respect. We saw a 200% increase in the women and girls that our teams were encountering in the red light districts and the vulnerable communities that when we went out into outreach, a 200% increase. And, I shared with you last time the story and it was just reflective. It just revealed the age as well. It reveals that these are children that are being sent out into the streets, and they're either being trafficked in the sense that they are tricked, stolen, deceived, sold, or or they're also being sent out by their families that have no ability to generate an income, nothing. And their last resort is to send out, and to pick up on that story that I shared last time, that young girl that was still wearing her pink nightie with the Dumbo elephant print on it when she was standing in the streets. So that's the reality. 200% increase, young and old. It just devastation. And with that, Kirst, what I love to share with you today, one of the big changes that we've pivots, I don't know what the right word is, change, pivot, expansion. Let's use it. Expansion is good, actually, because whilst we continue to run our safe shelter model, which you guys are so supportive of and help us finance through your generous regular donations. So we have the model, which is we go out into the streets and we meet the women and girls and we build trust and friendship over time, and then we invite them into build an exit strategy and invite them into that safe shelter model. That's still absolutely an option. But what we have found in this time of such a huge increase, like an explosion in this horrendous crime of human trafficking in this nation that we're working in, we've started setting up, and just this year we've already opened 3. We're right now in the process. We moved into the 4th drop-in centre on the weekend. So we've got this drop-in centre model that we're establishing. Soon we'll open our 5th. This is huge expansion for actually such a small team. But what the drop-in centre model does for us is that we can meet the girls out in the red light districts during outreach, and then we can tell them about the drop-in centre. And so then the next day, because they don't necessarily need rescue because they're going back to their families to take the finances. So they might have that roof that over their head, and let's be clear, it certainly doesn't look like the roofs that we have over our heads here I'm in Australia, and I know your listeners are all around the world, but, in our Western, my safe, my shelter that I have there in my home, they still might be able to go back to their family. But when we can invite them into the drop-in centre, what that means the next day is they can wake up and they can come to the drop-in centre, and we can provide counselling, trauma support. We can provide healthcare. Obviously by nature of the work that they're doing, there is so many risks. There's not only STIs, there's violence, there's trauma. So we can really help the girls. They can come in and we can help address these things. Our beautiful team can sit with them, allow them to rest, allow them to have a shower, allow them to speak their heart, unpack their situations, and really provide that beautiful support. And in addition to that, Kirst, which is so empowering, is that then we can invest into them new skills, new sustainable skills that are going to empower them, that are going to help them build a sense of self-worth again, to help them build sustainable skills that will economically empower them and mean that maybe it's not the only option for their family for them to be sold on the street for sex, but rather maybe the option is that they can come into our drop-in centre and learn regularly and learn sewing skills, beauty therapy skills, art, nail art. When I was there just a few weeks ago, they were teaching the girls how to do eyelash extensions, like all these skills that are sustainable that they can then take out into the environment. And as Myanmar is almost in, from my perspective, it's in a maybe what you would call a new normal. Like we talk here in Australia about our COVID normal environment. Right now, Myanmar is maybe moving into a very devastating and absolutely heartbreaking, but a new normal under the governance of the military, I guess we could say, without going into that's a whole other discussion about the political situation, and I don't think we will have time for that today. But giving these girls the skills to then go, I can go out, I've learnt sewing, I can make some dresses and maybe sell them at a local market. I can, do the beauty therapy and that sort of thing. And it is so powerful, Kirst. When I was there for such a short space of time in the scheme of things, just last month, I literally watched that process of that girl coming into the drop-in centre, and then within a matter of days, that girl actually having the ability to, she'd put her hand, she'd tried to make some jewelry, and she was really good at it. And so then she turned up to where we make the jewelry, and we're able to employ her. So she's generating an income and she's making jewelry, which is a beautiful new skill. She sits side by side by women and girls that have certainly not the same story, but maybe a similar story. And that is therapeutic in itself. And so that's a huge transformation to her, for her family, that no longer is the only option in their minds to sell this daughter for sex, but rather to use these new skills that the Eden team have been able to support and nurture her into. And, you know, Kirsty, I'll share with you, it's July 30th is World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. And when I was there recently, we had this idea, the team had this idea about creating something blue, a blue jewelry item that Eden around the world could sell, and then have everyone wearing on the 30th of July, because the theme for this day is Wear Blue, and it's about standing in solidarity with other advocates, victims and survivors of human trafficking. And so when I was there, the girls were dreaming, and some of the Eden staff there, about how we can not only design this jewelry piece, but they started making the jewelry piece. And then they were thinking about how we were going to package the jewelry piece. And they're like, well, we're learning to sew, so we can use these new skills. And so we were like, well, let's try and make 300 of them. And so then they've made 300 blue little pouch bags and 300 blue bracelets, all sort of as part of either the Eden team or some of the rescue girls, like really inputting into that as well. And just yesterday, our allocation for Australia arrived to me. And that is just so phenomenal, because for all those girls, that is a new skill. That is a sense of team. With that comes, you know, that sense of self-worth, and I'm going to do something, like I've got a job to do. Like, how meaningful to wake up in the day and going, I'm going to go to the drop-in centre and be a part of sewing the blue bag, learning how to sew, then using those newfound skills to make these little blue pouches. And now I get the great honour here in Australia of being able to sell them to people, to send all those finances back to resource the drop-in centre, and shout from the rooftops about how valuable these beautiful women and girls are, and how much we must fight and we must speak up, and how beautiful it is that by purchasing and wearing this bracelet, we are being such what an honour to be such an important part of that sort of whole story, that we can wear it and that we can tell people and that we can raise awareness about human trafficking. I just absolutely love it. I literally ran out to the DHL man. I even have a photo of it. We'll possibly social media it at some stage, because it's a bit reflective of how crazy I am at times. But Mr. DHL came to the office, and I literally ran out there and said to my colleague, take a photo. I was like giving him a cuddle because I was so excited to get the box. And it's just so empowering for those women, and how great that it then means that we can be a part of really raising awareness. And Kirsty, it's my heart that sometime soon we would stop saying things. You know, I get to share about the issue of human trafficking with the heart to raise awareness, you know, at different corporate events or fundraising events, etc. And for 6 years now, as long as I've been a part of the work that I currently do, I've been saying this stat, which is human trafficking is the fastest growing criminal industry in our world today. Utterly heartbreaking. But it's my hope that by doing these things, that we're going to tip the bell curve. We're going to raise awareness enough. We're going to mobilise the conversation. We're going to be a part of consolidating the resource and the data, and we're going to fight this horrendous crime. And again, it brings me back to partnerships such as this one that the Art of Decluttering and Eden have. We're actually having a really, really significant direct impact into the lives of these girls. And it's heartbreaking, but it's really beautiful to see them enjoying the work, learning this new skill, and then that they can actually send it off. And they're also so proud, and we're so excited and appreciative. It's a beautiful thing.
So cool.
So I will soon be selling all those bracelets in Australia. and wherever you are, actually, depending on where your listeners are, we're selling them in about 9 different countries around the world. So if you're following us on social media, you must keep an eye out because you will see them coming out soon. Blue bracelets.
Yeah. Well, probably by the time this episode drops, they'll be out.
Yeah,
they may already have been sold out.
They're sold out.
Yeah,
that's all right. Well, we've decided it's something we're going to do sort of every July. So even if, depending on timing, if this year doesn't work for us, then keep an eye out in the future.
But any jewelry you buy from Eden goes to support the work in Myanmar. Anyway.
Totally.
And contributes to this. And so does listening to this podcast, buying a book, buying a course, having us in your home. Any way that you support the art of decluttering also directly impacts the work that Eden does, because as Shell said, we give a percentage of our profit each month to Eden, and so that's how we
Kirst, can I tell you about because it just makes me that generous donation that you guys make every month. Can I tell you and your listeners about some of the impacts, somewhat like, I guess, the biggest rescue mission that we've ever done and how your partnership, is that all right? Can I go there now?
Please, yes.
So it's a pretty long story, but I will keep it, as short as I sort of can. But our founder became aware last year of a trafficking ring that was operating in Vietnam. It was taking advantage of vulnerable individuals that, due to COVID, were mass job losses, largely with factory closures being a huge, like garment factory closures, having such a significant roll-on effect in terms of garment factory closures, thousands, if not millions, of people out of work in this sort of Southeast Asia region that we're operating in. So out of work, no other options, increased desperation, vulnerability, right? So this ongoing, we see this devastating on-flow effect of COVID around the world, particularly in these already vulnerable nations. And so in Vietnam, this really professional-looking job opportunity campaign, if you will, started on social media, looked all very fine and legitimate and whatever. And so a large number of Vietnamese women and girls were applying for this job, and it was a scam. It was a trafficking scam. And hundreds of women and girls were being tricked and trafficked out of northern Vietnam up into China, and then across, actually multiple different routes, but across into northern Myanmar, which is an incredibly it's a conflict zone. It's a heartbreaking region, and these girls were being exploited these Vietnamese girls were being exploited horrendously in northern Myanmar, and our founder became aware of this happening. In and of itself, it's an amazing story that we should have even become aware of it, and so worked tirelessly with our beautiful team on the ground in Myanmar that are further south in the nation, to do all that we could to try and get to these girls and bring rescue. And because of the nation of Myanmar, because of COVID, because of the coup, it certainly wasn't an option to drive up there or go there really ourselves to try and bring about that rescue. So we had to work with sort of all different partners that we could, and our founder called me one day and she said, I think our only option is we're going to have to fly all these girls down. At the moment, we know that we think we can rescue 120 girls. So we're going to have to, and she's like, what do you think we can do? And I was like, we can do this. We can. And then and my background actually before working in travel, for Eden is travel, but marketing, certainly not, airline contracting, to be clear. And then she sends me a message or emails. She's like, do you think we can charter an aircraft? And I was like, I'm not really I don't have much knowledge about chartering international flights in a war zone in the middle of COVID, but let's give it a go. Anyway, we dreamed big, we cried, we just went, if this was my daughter, would I want someone? It was a risk for us. It was full on, it was new territory, but we decided that we would do it, and we sent out a communication to all our followers, our Eden followers, and said, we need your help. We're trying to rescue these women, and the donations that flow from that were amazing, and into that is certainly the very generous donation from you guys, and we were able to charter an aircraft. In fact, I'm just in the suburb, one suburb away from where I am. And I walked in there to my local bank and said, I want to put some money in an international airlines account because we're going to charter a flight and we're going to sign a contract with them. Oh my goodness, like freaking out. And we did that with the generous support of you guys and many other beautiful partners. And we, on Cup Day last year, that aircraft flew from further south in Myanmar up into that highly dangerous, violent conflict zone. And we brought those women, and on that particular flight was 72 women on Cup Day last year, and we brought them back down, and we were able to provide safe shelter, everything. They came with the clothes on their back, and huge high levels of trauma. Their encounter had been so incredibly heartbreaking, from being tricked, just their whole trafficking process through there was absolutely horrendous. But we loved on these girls. And then on the 15th of December, but before we were able to repatriate them, did so much creative, like trauma-informed care, creative therapies, loads of dance and art. They actually imparted their beautiful skills into our team there in Myanmar too. They taught some of our team about, nail art and beauty therapy and sewing, any skills that they sort of already had from their backgrounds in Vietnam, just how they were also such a blessing to us, and imparting their, those skills that they had with our team was just so beautiful. And then on the 15th of December, we were able to work with the Vietnamese embassy and other partners back in Vietnam to repatriate these women and girls. Their age range was from 14 to about 28. And I think there was about 7 of them that, as a result of their trafficking experience, were pregnant when we were able to bring them back into our care and put them on that flight from their captives back down to where we were. And, that in that one rescue, that was 120 Vietnamese women that we were able to then send back home to their families. And that is such a beautiful, heartbreaking thing that it needed to happen.
Yes.
Beautiful thing that we could play a part in bringing freedom and rescue to these girls that we will, like here in Australia, I will never meet, we will never meet, we will never be able to, but to know that we have brought that freedom, been a part of bringing that freedom, and to know that our team there, our Eden team there on the ground is so passionate. We're not a huge team. We don't have big infrastructure, resource or whatever. We have just an insanely committed, beautiful, passionate team of local men and women, and our founder and a couple of expats that are also in our team there. And they are an incredible group of humans who just went about making that happen. And, that is something that we'll just remember and cherish forever. And so, you guys were a part of that because you were a donor partner in that whole, we need to charter an aircraft. So amazing. Just before Christmas, in the height of COVID again, really, really special time.
Yeah, just so amazing. And you partnered with other NGOs in Vietnam too. So you didn't just send them back so that they could then be re-trafficked back into northern Myanmar.
No. So to be clear, these and because I guess to clarify, sometimes the answer is not to if a victim is rescued, if it's not always the right answer to reunite them with a family.
Yes.
It depends. Each trafficking victim and survivor has a different and unique story. And so what freedom or what the next step looks like for them is very unique. So it's certainly not a one size fits all model for any trafficking environment. But for these women, they were tricked. So their family wanted them back too. They had brothers, sisters, they had children, they had husbands that wanted, that was the scenario. So it was absolutely right to help them get back to their home nation. And it was there was a partnership there that also meant that then we connected them in with, we don't have Eden operating on the ground in Vietnam, but we connected them in with another organisation which is quite similar that could provide that ongoing trauma support and really make sure that we journeyed with them in the ways required to help them back into I guess a place of healing and empowerment moving forward. So that's a really huge thing. I guess those are two really big things that have happened in the life of Eden since we chatted last. That expansion into offering this drop-in centre model, which is just growing so quickly, and also obviously the rescue that I just shared with you. To be clear, yes, that was a big rescue, the biggest that we've ever, single rescue that we've ever done. But our heart at Eden, and certainly my heart, our whole team's heart, is that you do it for the one. Okay, it's not every single individual we believe deserves freedom, and we want to stand up and fight for every single individual. And that's our heart at Eden. We've just recently actually changed we've been around for 19 years. Our amazing founder and her team have been doing, working in this space is for that many years. And just recently we have, given our mission statement a bit of a revamp, and we've moved to be light, bring hope, and share love. And that is our hope for all of the individuals connected into the trafficking environment. And that is our heart for absolutely the victims, but it's also our heart to speak to those perpetrators and to be a part of speaking truth and opportunity into their life, because we firmly believe if we're going to be a part of breaking, tipping that bell curve that I spoke about earlier, and breaking the trafficking cycle, there is so many important components of it. We so firmly believe, and as we've spoken about, that empowerment and sustainable skills, building those things into these women and girls, is absolutely part of the complete cycle. We can't rescue, care for, and send out individuals without giving them other options. The reality is that people need finances, people need food, so we have to be a part of building these things into them, and we have to be a part of talking to the perpetrators. Whilst it's not our core mission is absolutely the women and girls that are experiencing trafficking and exploitation, but we still believe that people need to speak truth into the perpetrators, and we need to find out, we need to work with them and ideally get them to close their brothels and find different career opportunities. That is truth. And to be honest, as much as that breaks my head, I kind of can't comprehend it, but the reality is that this is a business for some of these people, and we need to tell them this is not okay. You need to choose a different career path, and can we point you in a different direction? And that's how we're going to bring change.
There's a reason why it's a growing business is because people see the opportunity to make money, and so that absolutely needs to be part of the bigger conversation around human trafficking. Is why is this a business? Why would people pay for the end services but also pay for humans? Why would you pay for humans in the first place?
Absolutely. There's one other, I don't know, you can wrap me up at any point. I'm very passionate about the work I do. So one more story, Kirsty, if I may. But just recently, as I said, last month, I was with our team on the ground in Myanmar. And just to talk about how desperate the situation is in that nation right now. So in terms of authorities, in really any way, because of the coup, because of the civil disobedience movement, which I'm not saying I disagree with, to be very clear at all. I'm not sharing any political opinions here, but because there is such devastation, corruption happening in this nation right now, when trauma happens, when a situation happens, there's really nowhere for anyone to turn to. During the coup and during COVID, so many of the INGOs that operate there had to get out. But Eden stayed, and we stayed in through the most troublesome and heartbreaking of times. And the situation that I want to share with you now is one that around Easter time in Myanmar is the water festival. And during this time, well, first of all, as a result of the coup and the uncertainty, there is such a high level of violence, of gang violence, almost like a civil war happening. And this is coming with frustration and anger and desperation and poverty. Like, this is driving all this extra angst. And this one particular girl that her and her mum had become aware of the Eden drop-in centre before the water festival. And devastatingly, during the water festival, this 14-year-old girl was violently gang raped. And her mother had nowhere to take her daughter. So can't take her. We would maybe go to the police station, or we would certainly go to a hospital, or we would go to seek some social welfare. We have access to so many things that no one. Can't take her to the police station, can't take her to the hospital because we don't have the money. And there's so much corruption and just everything in the hospitals. As soon as you walk in the door, you start paying money and just nowhere to turn. So this mother brought her 14-year-old daughter to the Eden drop-in centre, almost hyperventilating in trying to that's not the right word I'm trying to use, like devastate, like, how do I communicate that this is what my 14-year-old daughter has just been through? Like, I can't.
Yeah, she was just in overwhelm.
And absolutely
desperate for people to.
Yeah, and our Eden team there just reached out to her, the mum and the 14-year-old, and were able to support, bring her in, provide all forms of support in all the many ways that it was required in that situation, because there just isn't the infrastructure, there just isn't the systems in place there at all. There is nowhere else for them to turn. And when I was there, this beautiful 14-year-old girl had moved into our safe shelter for a while. Now, her mum was visiting her there, but she wanted to move in so she could sort of be immersed in the trauma-informed care, the creative therapies that happen in the safe shelter regularly. So it's a little bit different to the normal ish situation as to why the girl would be living in that safe shelter. But so her mum and her brother came this day. It was her 15th birthday, and I was there with them. And all the other girls that are in the shelter baked her a cake, and we sang happy birthday. And there's so much joy and excitement with this girl, celebrating this beautiful girl now turning 15, and seeing that she'd now been with the Eden team there for a matter of weeks, and had been able to, or a couple of months actually, and had definitely started on her healing journey. And to see the joy and celebration of the team around this beautiful girl, and to see her mum there celebrating there with her brother too. And as we sang happy birthday, I watched this girl she cried, and I sort of said, with the help of one of my beautiful colleagues who just is frontline there all the time, local Burmese girl who is just amazing, and I said, I saw you crying. And she said that they were both happy tears and sad tears. I know she said they were both sad tears, but they were also happy tears, because I'm here and I'm getting help, and these people love me, and my mum, and she sort of articulated all these beautiful things, and that just broke my heart, but in a heartbreaking and beautiful way, because how amazing for that woman, that girl, and that family, the impact that Eden has been able to have. And without them there, without that drop-in centre, without the awareness getting out there that they exist, who knows what they would have had. And again, I said it before, but every single individual matters. And that one girl, the fact that we could be a part of and can be a part of her ongoing healing journey there in Myanmar is just amazing. So, yeah.
So awesome. I love your heart, Shell, and I love Eden, the heart that Eden has to bring hope to a situation that for most of us just feels hopeless and overwhelming. Like, how do we stop the biggest growing industry in the world? And what can we do to stop this happening in the world? And I love that Eden can bring hope to individuals, but also hope to all of us, that there's some really practical ways that we can help. We can buy jewelry from Eden. We can buy masks. We can buy things from you guys to support the work, the incredible life transforming work that you're doing on the ground in Myanmar, and helping people to see that there is light and that there is hope and that there is a different way of being in the world. Yeah. And I just thank you so much. Thank you for all that you do, and all that Eden does, and all that, the many anti-trafficking NGOs do around the world. Absolutely. In this space, because we can't do everything, we can't be everything, but we can put a couple of dollars towards helping you guys, and we can continue to listen to this podcast, knowing that the money that we make from you listening to this podcast, by listening to the ads in this podcast, directly affects women and girls in Myanmar, and helping them to know that there is hope and there is a different way of being in this world, and you don't need to continue. You can find a safe exit plan, and a plan that works for you in your individual circumstances. Yeah, so exciting. And thank you so much for spending this short time with me again. I could listen to your stories for hours.
Sorry, I could talk for hours. So yeah.
I know, and I want to listen, but I also don't want to listen, because I wish there was no stories. I wish there wasn't anything for you to tell me. I wish that you were working in travel still, or doing something else, because this issue wasn't an issue that you needed to put your hand to. But I do thank you for putting your hand to it and for spending time with us.
Thanks, Kirsty, so much for having me. I'm not sure when this will go to air, but
on the 18th.
Oh, 18th well, can I ask your listeners, on the 30th of July is World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. And it's not something that we talk about a heap in Australia, but it's my heart that we would, because we think this issue isn't happening within our borders, and devastatingly it is. So on the 30th of July, wear something blue. And if you're on social media, post it on there. You're already wearing your blue, put that jumper on for the 30th.
I know.
Wear something trained. Blue. 30 July, World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. It's a Saturday. And post something on social media. Just even post wearing blue in solidarity of advocates, survivors, and victims of human trafficking. We need to shout louder here in this nation. We have so much, and it's time that we really stood up and looked like we are a force to be reckoned with, because we are, but we need to tell the world about it. So if you're on social media, 30 July, or even just in your communities, even if you're not, let's really start to make a noise and see an end to this horrendous crime.
Awesome. Well, we got no review for you today, because we wanted to give as much airtime to Michelle and Eden as possible. But if you are listening and you are also passionate about human trafficking and anti-human trafficking, and ridding the world of the need to traffic any human being, then please hop on, rate and review us. It helps to get this message to other people, and more listeners to our podcast, which then obviously has an impact on our ability to donate to Eden as well. So rate and review. We will see you again next week. Hopefully Amy will be back. Hopefully COVID doesn't take her out for too long. She'll be back again with us next week, and we'll catch up with Michelle in another couple of months. Thank you.
I love that. Thanks for having me, Kirsty.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us.
If you've learnt something awesome today, we'd love you to leave us a review on iTunes or Facebook so others can find our podcast too.
Don't forget you can see the show notes in your podcast app or over at our website artofdecluttering.com.au. So if there's anything you want more info on, check it out there.
If you'd like to join our supporter community, you can do so over at patreon.com/theartofdecluttering.
We hope you have a great rest of your day
And enjoy the freedom! We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture.
We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging.